Hey guys, Johnny Nerd out here. I'm here to make a long overdue video. This is a follow-up video to my Why Hub Motors Suck video. You guys know the video's got like 1 million views from some years ago. And I wanted to do a follow-up on it, you know, defending the hub motors because there is a use case for them. And I'm getting tired of people calling me up being like, hey, I know you hate hub motors, but I'm really thinking about doing it. And I'm like, I don't hate hub motors. I just think that mid-drives are a better motor system for most people. I know that it's not always the case. And now I want to talk about why that is. So without further ado, let's just jump in. And first of all, I do not hate hub motors. I just personally prefer mid-drive motors because of, essentially it's because of the performance. It's having a transmission where having a hub motor, it's 9.9 times out of 10, it's a fixed gear ratio inside that motor. But there's some times where that might actually be a good thing. Number one, it's simplistic. So if you are a new rider or you're not super familiar with bikes or you just want something really easy, you don't have to worry about what gear you're in, a hub motor might be a better choice for you. If you don't like shifting gears or you're not sure like, which one goes to a harder gear, which goes to an easier gear, when do I need to shift it? That's like, you don't want to be thinking, that just stresses you out. You get a little complex just thinking about it. Hub motor may be best for you. Another scenario which a hub motor might be better is if you're really flat grounds, you don't have hills really whatsoever. And again, you don't want to be shifting gears, a hub motor would be just fine. It is less wear and tear on your drivetrain. The power is not being driven by the chain. Another pro to the hub motor is that there's no strain on the drivetrain. The chain is not being driven by the motor like it is with a mid-drive. Granted, with a mid-drive, when you have that, when the chain is being powered by the motor, you get power multiplication through all those gears. So if you need a really good hill climber, put it in first gear. If you want a good top speed, put it in high gear. With a hub motor, it's completely separate for good or bad, which means if you break your chain whatsoever or something like that, doesn't matter. You're still going to be able to power yourself home. Use the throttle and just get home. In my opinion, I would say that it's a very niche scenario. I've only broken a chain probably twice in my life, and I know a lot of people would say just carry an extra master link, which is like this little tiny thing, keep it in your wallet. But another pro to a hub motor is it's a little bit less maintenance, I would say. Most mid-drives, there really isn't much maintenance. Most motors in general, there's almost no maintenance you do on it. You just listen for a sound, and if it's starting to make noise, you know, re-lube it or replace the lube in it, whatever it requires. Or, you know, after a set, maybe like 4,000 miles, you might want to just proactively replace that gear lube in there. But I have heard people say there's less maintenance. I think that's because there's no chain being driven to it, which is like drivetrain stuff. But again, if you drive a mid-drive properly, it really mitigates all the drivetrain strain. That's hard to say. Trust me. Another pro for hub motors is generally they're a little bit more cheaper. That's a good English using sentence. Unless you're doing a DIY conversion, then they're about the same. They both start a little around $300, I'd say, for a mid-drive or for a hub motor. But if you're buying a pre-made bike, if you buy a hub motor pre-made direct-to-consumer bought bike, usually the hub motor variant is going to be a lot cheaper. You can get those for $1,000 or less, whereas a mid-drive is generally $2,000 or more. But if you're building your own bike, you know, you might be able to get a hub motor for a little, maybe starting around $200, but a mid-drive starts a little over $300. So not a huge price difference there. I've heard a lot of people say that it's easier to do an install on a hub motor bike. I've done a few of them myself. I don't know, I guess maybe a little bit. I've done so many mid-drives that I could just do them super quick. You don't have to replace the whole rear wheel, so in my opinion, it's a little bit more wasteful. It might be a little bit easier though, but I wouldn't say it's anything crazy or easier, but I would give the edge to a hub motor. Another pro to a hub motor sometimes is that they're quieter. Now this really depends on what kind of motor you have for hub or mid-drive. Direct drive hub motors are generally quieter than a geared hub motor, but that's kind of confusing. I think that's where a lot of new people into this market get confused. A geared hub motor just means that there's a planetary gear in there that's a gear reduction. Doesn't mean that there's gears in there like a transmission that you could adjust them. It just means that there's a gear reduction in there. So a direct drive hub motor is definitely gonna be a lot quieter than any other motor, but most hub motors are geared hub motors, and they're gonna be the same loudness as a mid-drive motor that has an internal planetary gear, which are like Bafang's, 2.7s, Tongshangs. There are a couple motors like the CYC X1 Pro that have an external reduction gear, and those are louder. Those have tons of power. Those are 72 volt, 5,000 watt systems. Those are louder than hub motors, but as far as sound goes, they're gonna be about the same unless you get a direct drive hub motor. Going back onto direct drive motors, those support regen, which depending on, I made a whole nother video on that may be important to you. I do like having regen, but to me it's not worth switching to a hub motor over a mid-drive for that regen, because you could get some power back, especially if you have to come to a stop at the bottom of a very long hill. Then at least you're recapturing some of that power. But for most people, you probably wouldn't recapture too much energy, but it is better than not having it. So yes, would I like to have it? Yes, it's a good thing to have. Performance-wise, a mid-drive will blow a hub motor out of the water 9 times out of 10. The only time is when they start getting that performance difference starts going away is once you start getting up to, I would argue, 2,000 watts or 72 volt systems or higher. That's when that performance starts to become a little bit more equal. And a hub motor with 72 volts is actually, that's actually fun. So a lot of people will comment on my last video and say, oh, my 72 volt, 3,000 watt motor will smoke your mid-drive. And while that may be true in very specific circumstances, hill climbing wise, a 52 volt mid-drive geared properly, you get a 28 tooth up front and a 50 tooth in the rear for your low gear, will definitely outclimb a 72 volt, 3,000 watt hub motor up a very steep hill. I would easily take a mid-drive, lower powered mid-drive. I'd probably take a 500 watt over a 3,500 watt hub motor, as long as I could have it physically geared properly. I've talked about all this stuff ad nausea in all my other videos, but trying to make a little bit more cohesive video on this. In summary, why you may want to look at a hub motor over a mid-drive is, number one, if you really don't like shifting gears. If you want more of a casual ride, you want something that you can just get on, pedal or throttle and just go, not worry about what gear you're in. That's going to be the number one overall biggest deciding factor in my opinion. And then number two are going to be all those other reasons. Simplicity, less on the drivetrain. I feel like those are a little bit more anecdotal reasons. For me, really, it's if you're trying to build a bike or buy a bike for somebody that's new into biking or hasn't been into biking for a long time, or they're not super confident on a bike, hub motor is probably the smarter way to go. Or especially if you want something that does not have a lot of power, that's not going to like get them into a dangerous position, a hub motor can definitely be a safer, better solution for them. Hopefully you guys don't take this derogatory or anything like that. I always tell people I would rather suggest somebody get into a mid-drive motor and learn how to ride the bike properly, because if you're riding a motorized bike, you should probably know the fundamentals of shifting gears regardless. So at that point, you're not going to outgrow a hub motor and you could just stay in that mid-drive forever. I mean, I would stick in with a 500 watt mid-drive forever just to get that little boost. Especially if you're into cycling, you don't really need a lot of power. You just need a little boost for the hills. Hopefully you guys found this helpful. Look forward to your comments. Hopefully this is a coming together moment, not a you suck, mid-drive suck, hub motors suck, but whatever. You guys are gonna do what you're gonna do. So later.